Marcus had never imagined his career would take this strange and unexpected turn. Once a skilled pilot flying daring missions on the front lines, he now found himself reassigned as a personal aide and bodyguard to an alien heiress. The news had hit him hard. From commanding a fighter to standing quietly by someone's side in a glittering palace ship, that was not what he had signed up for. The military brass called it an honor, a chance to serve humanity's growing ties with alien civilizations. But Marcus felt more like a pawn in a political game. Still, duty was duty, and he knew better than to argue. So, with a mix of frustration and curiosity, he boarded the immense capital ship orbiting a star. So distant, it seemed like a tiny glowing dot in the dark void outside the window. The ship itself was a marvel of technology, its smooth, reflective surfaces shimmering under the soft light of distant galaxies. As he stepped inside, a feeling of unfamiliarity washed over him. This was not the battlefield, nor the noisy hangars he was used to. It was quiet, elegant, and cold, in a way that made him tense. He was told his charge was Lady Kayla, the youngest heiress of the Zenari dynasty, one of the most powerful alien families in the known galaxy. The Zenari were known for their strength and strict codes, but Marcus soon realized that Kayla was different from the legends. When he first met her, she was standing by a tall window, looking out into the stars with a calm expression that barely hinted at the storm of responsibility she carried. Her features were delicate, but marked by an intensity that made Marcus uneasy. There was something hidden behind her eyes, a secret she did not share easily. Though she wore the royal garments and held herself with the grace expected of her position, Marcus sensed layers beneath the surface layers of doubt, fear, and a desire to break free from the life that had been planned for her. He noticed how she barely spoke at first, choosing to observe rather than engage. Their first conversation was brief but charged with unspoken meaning. Kayla's voice was soft but firm, commanding attention in a way that felt less like an order and more like a challenge. She asked Marcus questions about Earth, about human soldiers, the wars they fought, questions that seemed innocent but were filled with curiosity and a hint of skepticism. Marcus answered carefully, wondering why an alien princess wanted to learn so much about the very people who often saw her kind as threats. Slowly, the walls between them began to shift. Marcus found himself caught between his instincts to protect and his growing fascination with Kayla's world, a world so different from his own, but not without echoes of familiar struggles. He realized that serving Kayla was going to be more complicated than just standing guard. There were whispers among the ship's crew about political plots and power struggles within the Zenari Empire. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with hope, as if his presence alone could change the fate of this ancient dynasty. Marcus felt the weight of expectations settling on his shoulders, heavier than any armor he had worn in battle. Night after night, he lay awake in his quarters, thinking about the heiress, who seemed both fragile and fierce, who carried the future of her people yet appeared lost in the enormity of her destiny. He wondered what she truly wanted from him and from their uneasy alliance. There was a mystery here, something just beneath the surface of the polished world he had stepped into. And Marcus, despite all his doubts, was determined to uncover it to heaven, if it meant facing dangers far more complex than any enemy he had fought before. The story was only beginning, and the stars outside the ship gleamed like silent watchers. To what would come next? As the days passed aboard the massive capital ship, Marcus quickly realized that his role was not going to be as simple as standing guard and ensuring Lady Kayla's safety. The heiress's demands extended far beyond physical protection. Kayla was fascinated by humanity, especially by the emotions and values that defined Marcus's kind. She wanted to understand what it truly meant to be human. At first, her requests seemed odd to Marcus. She asked him to describe common human experiences, the meaning behind laughter, sorrow, and joy, and even insisted he teach her about celebrations and rituals from Earth. It was strange to think that a royal alien born into privilege and power was so eager to learn about something so ordinary to him. Yet beneath her questions was a deep longing, a desire to connect with a world so different from her own. Marcus found himself attending small, formal ceremonies that Kayla arranged in her private quarters, where he shared stories of human holidays, the way families gathered, and how people expressed love and friendship. These moments were difficult for Kayla to understand, but she listened intently, eyes wide with wonder. The more she learned, the more Marcus noticed the loneliness behind her regal smile. Despite her powerful position, Kayla seemed trapped by expectations and rules laid down by her ancestors and advisors. Her people, the Zenari, were governed by strict traditions that left little room for personal choice or freedom. Marcus saw how the heiress struggled to balance her duty with her own dreams, a silent battle that made her seem vulnerable in ways few had ever witnessed. The pressure weighed on her heavily, and sometimes when she thought no one was watching, Marcus caught glimpses of her frustration and sadness. She confided in him during quiet hours, sharing thoughts she had never revealed to anyone else. Through these conversations, Marcus began to understand the complexity of Kayla's world. It was a place where power and fear often ruled, where showing emotion was seen as weakness, and where personal desires were sacrificed for the good of the empire. This was so different from the human world, where freedom and individuality were valued if life was often chaotic and uncertain. Yet, despite their differences, Marcus saw surprising similarities. Both humans and Zenari carried the burden of legacy and responsibility. Both struggled to find meaning in the roles they were forced to play, and both craved genuine connection. In a universe that often felt cold and uncaring, the relationship between Marcus and Kayla slowly evolved from mere duty to something more complex and meaningful. She began to challenge his views, asking difficult questions about human nature, war, and peace. He, in turn, found himself questioning his assumptions about aliens and the rigid systems they lived under. But not everyone on the ship approved of their growing bond. Whispers of distrust followed Marcus through the corridors. Some Zenari officers saw his closeness to the heiress as a threat, fearing that a human could influence her in dangerous ways. Others doubted his loyalty, suspecting that he might be a spy or a tool of Earth's government. These suspicions made Marcus even more cautious, forcing him to walk a careful line between protecting Kayla and navigating the complex politics of the court. One evening, during a rare moment of calm, Kayla made a request that surprised him deeply. She asked Marcus to take her to experience a human Festivalan event that celebrated freedom and community. The idea of exposing her to the crowded, noisy world outside the ship was risky, but Marcus agreed. It was an opportunity to show her something real and raw, far from the polished halls of power. The festival was unlike anything Kayla had ever seen, full of laughter, music, and chaotic energy. She was fascinated by the way strangers came together, the warmth they shared, and the freedom to express themselves without fear of judgment. Watching her absorb the scene with wide eyes, Marcus felt a strange hope stirring inside him. Through understanding each other, humans and Zenari could build a bridge that would change the future of both species. Yet, beneath the joy of the festival, a shadow lingered. Marcus knew that Kayla's desire to learn and explore made her vulnerable to enemies who did not want change. His instincts told him danger was close, hidden beneath the surface of smiles and celebrations. Protecting Kayla meant more than standing ready for battle. It meant watching for threats no one else could see and preparing for challenges that could shatter the fragile peace between worlds. As he returned to the ship with Kayla, Marcus's mind raced with questions. How far would she go in her search for understanding? Could he help her break free from the chains of tradition without tearing her world apart? What sacrifices would they both have to make to find a new path forward? The answers were unknown, but Marcus was determined to face whatever came next, because serving the alien heiress was no longer just a job. It had become something far greater, something that could change the course of history itself. As Marcus settled deeper into his role beside Lady Kayla, he began to sense the heavy weight of unseen dangers lurking within the glittering halls of the Zenari capital ship. The calm and elegance that surrounded them hid a darker reality, one filled with political intrigue and silent threats that could unravel the empire at any moment. It wasn't long before Marcus's instincts sharpened. By years on the battlefield alerted him to suspicious activities around the court. Strange meetings held behind closed doors, whispered conversations that stopped when he approached, and the sudden appearance of unfamiliar faces all pointed toward a hidden conspiracy. Through careful observation and quiet questioning, Marcus uncovered a dangerous plot aimed at overthrowing Kayla. A plan orchestrated by powerful nobles who feared her vision for change and saw her as a threat to their control. This web of deception was complex and deadly, woven with lies designed to isolate the heiress and weaken her hold on power. Marcus knew that traditional military force alone would not be enough to protect her. Instead, he relied on his sharp mind, human ingenuity, and combat skills to navigate the treacherous political landscape. He became Kayla's shadow and shield, anticipating moves against her and countering threats before they could take root. At the same time, Kayla began to open up to Marcus in ways she never had before. In quiet moments away from prying eyes, she confessed her secret envy for human freedom, the way people could choose their own paths, live by their own rules, and escape the chains of obligation that bound her tightly. She dreamed of a life beyond royal duty, a life where she could be more than just a symbol or a pawn in a game of power. Her words revealed the depth of her loneliness and the heavy burden she carried as the future of the Zinari Empire. Marcus found himself torn between his loyalty to his military orders and his growing desire to protect someone who challenged everything he thought he knew about the alien others. Kayla was not just a distant princess. She was a person with hopes, fears, and a courage that inspired him. Their relationship grew stronger, built on trust and mutual respect, but also on the dangerous knowledge that their enemies could strike at any moment. As the plot against Kayla tightened like a noose, Marcus and the heiress worked together to outmaneuver their foes. Using every resource available to them, from ancient Zinari secrets to Marcus's experience with human tactics, each day brought new risks and new tests of their alliance, but also moments of unexpected hope and strength. Marcus realized that the fate of the Empire, perhaps the future of human-alien relations, depended on their ability to survive this storm of betrayal and fear. The power struggles that once seemed distant and abstract became a deadly reality, and Marcus understood that protecting Kayla meant more than guarding her. It meant standing beside her as a partner in a fight for a better future. The line between duty and personal conviction blurred, leaving Marcus to face choices that would define not only his own destiny, but the destiny of two worlds on the brink of change. The day Lady Kayla made her decision to reveal her alliance with Marcus too, the entire Zinari court marked a turning point, not just for her, but for the future of her people and their relationship with humanity. It was a bold and dangerous act, one that shattered centuries of tradition and shocked everyone who witnessed it. The Zinari had always viewed humans as unpredictable outsiders, sometimes enemies, sometimes allies, but never equals. To see their heiress stand openly beside a human soldier sent ripples through the Empire's foundations. Many nobles whispered behind closed doors, questioning her judgment and fearing the consequences of such a public declaration. Yet Kayla was resolute, refusing to let fear dictate her choices. She believed that breaking these old barriers was the only way to build a stronger, more united future. Meanwhile, Marcus found himself not just protecting Kayla, but fully embracing his role within the Zinari society. He trained alongside their elite guards, adapting to their rigorous physical and mental challenges. Despite the differences in their physiology and fighting styles, Marcus's human ingenuity and determination won respect. His ability to learn quickly and think creatively inspired the Zinari soldiers, showing them that human adaptability was a strength, not a weakness. Their cooperation on the training grounds slowly turned into mutual admiration, and together, Marcus and Kayla became symbols of a new era, one where compassion and resourcefulness could bridge the gap between two very different worlds. Their growing partnership sparked a movement among both humans and Zinari, who were tired of old prejudices and eager for change. This movement gained momentum quietly at first, through whispered conversations and small acts of defiance, but soon became impossible to ignore. However, not everyone welcomed these changes. Powerful factions within the Zenari elite saw the alliance as a threat to their authority and sought to undermine Kela's position. Secret plots and covert operations aimed to destabilize her reign, forcing Marcus and Kela to remain vigilant at all times. They knew that their survival depended on staying one step ahead of their enemies, whose power and influence reached deep into the Empire's structures. The tension escalated until it exploded into a high-stakes confrontation that tested their courage, loyalty, and resolve. Marcus's combat skills and Kela's leadership were pushed to their limits as they faced attacks designed to destroy not only their lives but the fragile hope they represented. Yet, in the midst of danger and uncertainty, the bond between human and alien grew stronger, proving that true partnership could overcome even the darkest forces. Their fight was not just for survival, but for the chance to redefine what it meant to be leaders of their people in a universe that was changing faster than anyone could predict. As they stood together against the storm, Marcus and Kela knew that breaking boundaries was never easy, but it was necessary. The future they dreamed of depended on their courage to challenge tradition, embrace difference, and inspire others to do the same. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with risks and sacrifices, but also with hope and the possibility of a new dawn for humanity in the Zenari. Alike, after the storm of political betrayal and fierce battles had finally settled, a new chapter began for both Lady Kela and Marcus, one filled with hope and the promise of unity between their two very different worlds. The crisis that once threatened to tear the Zenari Empire apart had instead become a catalyst for change, bringing to light the strength that could be found in cooperation and understanding. Kela, once seen by many as a fragile and uncertain Heiress, had grown into a leader whose courage and vision inspired loyalty and respect throughout the Empire and beyond. She stood tall, not only as a ruler, but as a symbol of progressa, shining example that tradition did not have to mean stagnation, and that the future could be shaped by bold ideas and open hearts. Marcus, by her side, was no longer just a soldier, assigned to protect her. His role had evolved into something far greater. The military leaders and the council recognized his unique position as a human who had earned the trust and admiration of the Zenari people. They offered him a permanent role not only as Kela's protector but as an ambassador, a bridge between the cultures of Earth and the Zenari Empire. It was a position that carried great responsibility, one that required wisdom, patience, and the ability to navigate the complex layers of diplomacy and cultural differences. Marcus accepted, understanding that his journey was about more than personal duty. It was about fostering peace and cooperation on a galactic scale. Together, Kela and Marcus began working to rebuild trust between their worlds. They initiated programs to encourage cultural exchange, education, and mutual support. Where there had been suspicion and fear, they planted seeds of friendship and alliance. Marcus shared stories of human resilience and hope, while Kela introduced her people to new ways of thinking about freedom and individuality. Their partnership became a living example of what could be achieved when differences were embraced rather than feared. Despite the many challenges ahead, they faced the future with determination. Kela was determined to reform the Empire's rigid systems and create a society where her people could thrive without sacrificing their identities or dreams. Marcus was ready to dedicate himself to this mission, understanding that his service to the alien Heiress was also a service to humanity's place in the stars. The bond they had formed, one born out of necessity and strengthened by respect, had transformed into a powerful alliance that held the potential to reshape the destiny of two civilizations. As they stood together on the observation deck of the capital ship, watching the distant stars shimmer against the blackness of space, Marcus felt a deep sense of purpose. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, and that many would resist the changes they sought to bring. But he also knew that with Kela's leadership and their shared commitment, they could overcome any obstacle. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown challenges, but it was also filled with possibilities. In that moment, Marcus finally understood what it truly meant to serve the alien Heiress, not just as a protector or a soldier, but as a guardian of hope, a living symbol of unity and peace between worlds. The new dawn they had fought for was rising, bright and unstoppable, promising a future where humans and Zanari could walk side by side, learning from each other and building a better universe together.